Welcome to the Awakening Podcast. You can find all our episodes on awakeningpodcast.org. You'll find all of my 6 podcasts. You can scan the QR code or go to roycollin.com. If you're interested in starting a podcast, you're an existing podcaster and you want to improve, or you even want to do a podcasting tour, I help with that. And if you're looking for virtual assistants, go to va.world. I've got my good friend Peter Wilson back, and to be honest, I haven't been doing justice because I just assume everybody knows who you are. So it's been a while since you're a passionate educator, equity advocate, trust law enthusiast, and with a unique and diverse background, a former Royal Navy armourer and professional fighter. You spent over 3 decades teaching martial arts to children and adults using discipline, respect, and personal empowerment as the foundation of instruction. His popular martial arts books for children have been praised by parents and educators alike for their engagement. And you've also a new book out, which I've just finished, and it's Tommy the Trustworthy Tiger. And it's kind of, we both do kind of something. It's like, it's about the children and just kind of doing the betterment of mankind. And that's why I love actually having you on and discussing, because every single thing is, we kind of realize that if we're going to make change, we're not going to change the Bill Gates and all these other asswipes, that's not going to happen. But if you make sure the next generation coming up, and I suppose, well, first of all, welcome Peter Wilson.
Yeah, no, it's great to be back. I always enjoy coming on. It's a good fun. Spread the word.
Exactly. So I'd like to start actually on your book, because I saw it in the Skool.com, that's where you've got all your courses and very well organized and everything. And it's so good, because even though it's kind of like, say, for the children, which I think my son would actually, I get my son to read that now. I think he'd understand it the way it's done. But it's brilliant for adults, because so many times, and I mean, I've done courses and I've put out loads of videos and I get comments. I mean, you must be bombarded with the comments that you get from all, but most people are bamboozled and they haven't a clue, or they're going away and they're trying to learn from somebody. But you have basically just simplified the trusting. And I think you can do that for everything that's connected with this, because people, they just kind of, they get their hands on something and then they go off in their own direction. Then they're getting 10 different, ways of doing something. And in the end, they haven't a clue what they're doing. Whereas I think just by reading that alone, you can understand the trust.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that was the idea. So, years and years ago, you're talking about like early 2000, can't remember now, like maybe like 5, something like that. And I had created these books, Tommy the Tiny Tiger, and we used to run a martial arts program for kids. I mean, we've still got the 2 gyms running. I don't do anything now, but like my son runs them, and he's got one even now, even for 2-year-olds. I can't remember what he calls it now, but and then the older one is called the Tiny Tigers, I think still. And obviously it's all about the physical side's great for kids, isn't it? Physical activity. I mean, they're not learning how to fight. They're running around. They're playing games. Yes, they learn how to do a kick of sorts. You're not going to go, oh no, that's wrong. You got to do this. But you let them have the physical activity. As long as they're not hurting themselves, it's great. So they're exercising, which is a big lack in school, isn't it, nowadays? So that was great. But it's all about teaching them sort of like empowerment, like for life, and good manners and life skills. And so I thought, well, I need to turn it into a book to help, to try and get the point across, rather than just like in the class with the kids. It was always very busy, so by the time you've like got them out, there's no time to like relate with the parents as much, and because you've got another lot coming in, it's like full on. So I created the books, and I actually had them. I think they're still on Amazon. I don't get anything for it though. I don't know what happened, but they still sell on Amazon. And Tommy the Tiny Tiger, and it was for different things like balance and focus. And what they tied in with is we had 6 what we call tags. So they're all different colors. So we had you would change your belt as you progress through. So instead of, imagine a 4-year-old's mind, so are we going to get a new belt? When? Oh, it's coming. I mean, all they can think of is like, well, when? How will that be? And you've got to keep them engaged. So we used to have specific topics, and we'd say, right, okay, balance. You've got to get better at balance. to be able to get your tag. And what it was literally, I can't remember what the color balance was for, but there was like 6 different colors, and they were all electrical tape, and we would just literally wrap it around the end of the belt and say, we have won that tag for having better balance. So now you're going to get the next tag for whatever it was, better focus. And then we'd ask them, what does balance mean then? And they would give you their version of it, and then we'd explain it in these little kiddies books that I had designed. What was balance, and what was focus, and these types of things. So, that's where the book writing started for the children. And then, I've had so many like adults, people, and they're just like, I can't get my head around this trust stuff. And I'm trying to understand this. I just, it's too complicated. So I thought, you know what, we should write a book for kids. And I even say it somewhere in there, it's designed so well for kids, even an adult can understand it. And, the adults in the group, the private group, Checkmate the Matrix, and they've loved it. They're like, wow, this is amazing. And they're reading the book and they're like, oh, right, now I get it. Oh, well, that makes sense now. So, I mean, it's a series of books, by the way. That's just the first one. We've got a series of books that are coming out, and it's all lovely kiddie stories. I think it's about like the pirates. I'm doing is the next one, and how to actually, like fight the pirates, but you're protecting everything in the trust. Like you have the trust tree with Master Drogo, who's running the dojo, because it's still based in martial arts, because it gives me that little bit of easiness to go along the lines. But it's all about, I mean, they were protecting Gus's lunch as a trust, which I thought was quite funny. But everyone is just like, oh, no, I get it. Oh, I see it. Yeah. So, and there was many different options to do with it. And people were saying, can you get it printed? Can we do it on Amazon? And I was thinking, I don't want to do that, because I don't want to go back on Amazon again. I don't know what happened. They were selling books and everything. I never got nothing for it at all. So I don't know what happened to them. But and then you go out to all these different like companies, and like Lulu.com's one, and you just print on demand, so you can do it, but like you've got to massively increase the prices to make it worth it. It's so I just thought, no, what I'll do is I'll keep it in an ebook style, and I'll put it inside the group, and I'll make a classroom inside that Skool.com, in the private group. So, everybody that wants it can go in, and we've obviously got all the trust information and all the laws and how to, create trusts and what it is to administer and all of that. But this is actually like a children's version, which explains it so clearly, in an adult sort of like mind. It's just brilliant. It shows them on a childish way how to actually understand a trust for kids and adults. So yeah, but I've kept it just in the classroom, in the private group. So and the way that I've done it, I feel quite sort of like, what would I say, like protective towards it, because I think that it is very personal to me, because I wrote the book, as well. So I've made it, if you come in as a trial, we do a free trial in the group all the time, but you've got to be in for at least 7 days before the book opens. Everything else is open. I mean, even go and create a trust, you know what I mean? So, but like the book itself, I feel that I should at least have a little bit more control over it, because it's special to my heart, I would say, with it being such a lovely little kiddies book.
And because even today I was going in, and you've actually created the first one, how to navigate the whole thing. And it's actually a brilliant thing to do, because I mean, I've got a few different things that I'm involved with the school, obviously, of course, all your stuff, but it's like, I just kind of never paid much attention, but there's a lot of people that don't understand that. And you've actually done, I don't know, is it half an hour or something, but you've explained exactly how to navigate it, which is a brilliant thing, because the other people aren't doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on a few different groups as well in school, so I know the guy who owns it, and two of them, one of them I've actually met, him, I can't say his name, Mosey, right? And who's came along later, and he's like, oh, multimillionaire, like fantastic businessman, but he comes from a gym background like we did. So, and I met them over in the United States when I was over for this business conference. I think it was in 2019, January 2019. So, and when I seen what they were doing, compared to what I had, I had my private website and everything, members and that, and I thought, no, that just looks so attractive. And it's so easy to kind of get your head around. But like, you've got to know how to do the platform, and it is a little bit, especially if you're new and you go in and think, well, I can't find anything. What do you do? And they've got like this, he's called Sam Ovens. He's I think he's Australian. Great, a bit of genius. I don't like his voice, like the accent, Australian. Unless it's South African, but I don't know. I think it's Australian, but anyway. But they got a tiny little video. It's about like, I think maybe a minute or so. And then when I watched it, they said, put this up at the front of your group and it shows everyone how to use Skool. I thought, no, it doesn't. It's useless. So I created that one, and just obviously, I mean, ours is quite big. There's a lot of classrooms, a lot of information, and it just shows them a little bit on how to actually use it and move around. Most people that have went in there have found that video, like you've said, incredibly helpful. But then it's, once they've got a little bit, it doesn't take long, and then they get to move around and navigate the actual site and the platform. It's very easy, and they find it very helpful. Because you've got your social media side, if you want to call it that, the community side, where people can put posts up and ask questions and even chat to each other, but it's private. You don't get any, keyboard warriors coming in there. And obviously, the only fact checker in there is me. So you're not going to get any hassle or banned for like asking questions about certain topics. But I am very strict. It's got to be purely positive. Anything negative, and immediately, even if I don't understand the comment or the question, I just delete it. I'm not nasty to anyone. I just delete it. And then if I think there's something to be said, I'll privately talk to them, like, what do you mean by that, or whatever it is. And but it's all it's positive or get out, and it's simple as that. So we don't, like, it's bad enough as it is without having to, like, bicker on with each other, isn't it?
And I mean, obviously it's growing all the time, but it'll get to a stage now where it's going to be very hard. So you probably have to have other administrators, or I don't know, can you kind of incorporate an AI that flags it or something like that? Because, when it gets to like say 10x what it is now, it'll be impossible to spend the time to go in and see all these things.
Yeah, never even thought of that. But yeah, I mean,
I suppose it's a good complaint to have.
it would be, but I suppose I could. I mean, I've got a couple of administrators in already, like Dave, or he's called Dimebar on there, and he's brilliant, very, very, very knowledgeable in law. Yeah, so, and he helps monitor it and stuff like that. He's very active in there. He's brilliant. But yeah, we could, I would be great to find out if there was an AI that could be used. That would be very handy. I've often thought about that, and I'll tell you why. Because obviously, I am very passionate about this, and this group, this Skool.com's made me, I think, even more aware of what we could do to help mankind. So I didn't know this guy, but I came across this guy. He's English, but he lives in America, and he runs some other, I don't know what it is, but it's like, the first thing I found was about fighting parking tickets. I thought, okay, well, that's something I've got an interest in. It's all Americanized, so it's completely different, irrelevant to anything you do in the UK. But I thought, well, that's a good idea. But it is 100% AI based. So you put your details in, and it'll spit you out some kind of complaint or whatever it is to the American parking companies or whatever they are. And I thought, that's a great idea. I mean, the difference and more power that we have is that I have created these, let's call them templates if you want, but to fight these parking tickets, right? We'll talk about that later, but also about the debts, and about like the supermarkets. So yeah, okay, the kind of a template. It's not AI, because I mean, it's been done by me. But you can edit the you can edit the templates to suit your particular circumstances of the occasion, of what's ever happened, but it still is a little bit more hands-on, right? So you do have that human touch to it, which is very, very lacking nowadays, isn't it? Try and get, like, ring up a bank or a hospital, or, try and get a doctor. Not that I'll ever want one, but I know for a fact through looking at different things, it's impossible. You can't get a doctor's appointment or anything like that. So there's no human interaction. So I do make sure that I do a lot of interaction. We have like weekly meetings, live meetings every week, and I know for a fact a lot of people really enjoy them, and they would do it just for that, and we cover different aspects, maybe go over how to use these systems and these protocols to go against debt collectors and ticket collectors and all the nonsense that they thrust upon mankind. But also, I am quite active in the community, try to keep an eye on it. But you're right. I mean, if it gets much, much bigger, then, we would need clones of myself to go and get in there and start like doing things. Yeah, that's for sure.
Because with the AI, because I'm assuming there's a lot of people as well, when they're trying to find out about, common law, natural law, trusts, all the different things. But my experience with a lot of them, like say the jib jab, it's like really pushing an agenda, 5G, no, it's grand. So it's based on the programmers who dictated, and unfortunately it's the bad boys. And I'm just wondering, because this is like what you're doing and trying to help people and the signature and everything, could they lead you down the wrong path? Because I don't trust it. Like you can ask a nice question and it's brilliant. If like, how could I respond to somebody in a non-aggressive way, but confident and stuff like, if you ask a decent question, it's brilliant. But when you're kind of going deeper down the rabbit hole, I mean, I've had a few chats, or not ChatGPT, there's a few different Gemini. They've just stopped writing to me. They didn't like the questions I was asking. So
Yeah.
I like, what's your thoughts on that for kind of like what you're doing, the sovereignty and stuff?
Yeah, I tell you what, the good thing with ChatGPT is, right, what you can do is you can literally dismantle it, and then you can go back in and you can recreate it, and you can close it down so that it only looks at the knowledge it's been installed with, and it can't go online and it can't go searching off, right? So if we take it from, say, like the law side, and equity is really what we concentrate on. But like going in and having a look at, well, you definitely need, when you're doing the debt, you're going to need to look at the Law of Property Act, 1925, 1989, etc. So we've got that installed. You're going to have to look at Snell's books on equity, because everything that we do is about the unconscionable conduct by the debt collectors. Then, and what we've done is we've created and built it all around the laws, around equity, around Law of Property Act, like I've said, also FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority, Credit Consumer Act, all of that's all built in. And it's not allowed to go and look at Google, for instance, or a search engine. So what you get is very specific, and it's designed for us. So we can use it like that. Now, talking about other ones, you said there is various ones. This one that they were like really hammering, I was saying, oh, this is brilliant, 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 called DeepSeek, right? So I thought, okay, go and have a look. I think it's a DeepSeek, a big wheel thing.
Yeah, Chinese one.
That switches itself off. You ask any dodgy, I mean, oh, I need to know about this, it switches off. It just says, no, I'm too busy. Oh, really? I'm just, it's totally fine before, but then you start off going off down, a little bit of an equitable route, say, that not many people would go down. Or you ask something about like Tartaria, or like, the what do you call it? The jets with the chemtrails, boom, it's gone. So I'm too busy. Oh, right, okay. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the AI, like you said, it's very similar, isn't it? Really, it's just like Google on steroids, really. It might be faster and everything, but it comes up with the same bullshit. If you ask, a question about the political parties or anything, it gives you the full narrative. Don't dare
there that you've programmed it in yourself. I'm just curious, have you done it, or possibly how hard is it to do it? Because we have the digital versions. If you look at like Black Law's Dictionary Volume 1 versus, I don't know what we're on now, is it 12 or is it 20? I'm not sure, but because they've watered them down, taken. It'd be interesting to say, what's the difference? What have they removed?
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, on Black's Law, if anybody wants a Black's Law, get the 6th edition. It's the best one, because anything after 6th edition, they actually took out the equitable side to it. Yeah, so anyway, so 6th if you want to get a better version. But On the, there's got to be, I mean, not that I'm technically minded, I'm not, I couldn't think about how to create it, but there's got to be programmers out there that make all these apps, for instance, right, that could create an AI that was purely, away from the narrative, let's say. And like I've just been saying, we can program them, and we have programmed them so that it will do what we want to do, and it's not allowed to look anywhere else. Like I said, like Dave Dimebar, who's one of our admin, he's brilliant with the way he's done it. And he's got his own association, private association, the same as we have, but and he's done it that where he creates the AI. Yes, it is through ChatGPT, but what he's done is he's broken it down, got rid of all of the narrative. You're not allowed to go on Google. You're not allowed to look on the internet. You can only use this, and he's loaded it up there with. Yeah, look, if you look behind me, this is the every single book by Halesbury's Law. There's 50 copies of it there. So I've just got like the bookcase so I could put them all on because it just looked messy. So there's 50 odd books there, apart from the one on the end, which is that one there, which is Black's Law. That's 11th edition, which I don't use. That's why I've got it over there, because it was the same color. That's the only reason, right? Because like I've kept it up here so I can keep the 6th edition there where I can grab it next to Burton's Legal Thesaurus 4th edition. That's the two you use. All right. But so he's got one that's completely loaded with nothing but Halesbury's Law. So if you want to find out like about, I mean, what does Halesbury's Law tell you? It is the English Constitution. I only bought it so I could prove that the English Constitution had nothing to do with Scotland and leave Scotland alone. That's why I was doing it, right? But that's a different thing. But it has everything in there and telling you point blank that these admin courts are completely illegal and they can never actually be made legal because they're completely against the Constitution. Tells you in there. That's Black Law. That's like Halesbury's Laws of England. So yeah. So he's actually got that ChatGPT, but all it can look at is Halesbury's Law. So you can ask it a question, and it'll come up with a good answer for you.
Excellent. I was looking at a thing. It was on your Skool.com as well as the FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority Handbook. And so, what exactly are they doing in that, and what should we be looking out for?
Well, the reason why we use it is specifically on consumer debt, right? And a lot of people get confused. You can only use it for certain aspects of a debt case. And it can touch on council tax enforcement action by the enforcement agents. Nothing to do with the council tax itself, completely irrelevant, right? It's a different set of legislation. But on the actions, it does actually go into the actions of the enforcement agents. So they can still breach it. But mainly, it's about fairness and transparency. That's why we use the FCA and the principles of the FCA, which is the fairness and transparency, which is exactly the opposite of what the debt collectors want to do, because they don't want to be transparent. They don't want to be, well, definitely not fair, but they're hiding everything. This is again, I think two of my greatest passions because once you find out something, it's the same like when people say, well, people say, oh, I've woke up, right? They say, well, I've realized the world's not what it is, and now I can't unsee anything. But it's the same when you look at the debts, right? And you find out that this whole business model is created on a lie. And it's a business model that these debt collectors, that hand in hand with the lower court system, which is the county courts, right? Which is statutory courts, which is why we keep telling people you've got to go into equity, stay away from the county courts. I mean, we've had 50-50, 50% wins, right? But 50% they've lost the cases. So now they've had to go and appeal and move it to Chancery. It's not called Chancery anymore, but people will get what I mean if I say that. So what happens is with the FCA, you move across over onto the actual Law of Property Act 1925, right, which has obviously been around since then, right, 1925, but well before GDPR and DPA 2018 were there, right? So if you look at the Law of Property Act, 1925, and it does actually explain very clearly how you can transfer a debt from one party to another. It tells you very plainly. But what's happened is the actual debt collectors, avoiding the FCA handbook on fairness and transparency, twist it. And they say, well, it says on there it has to be in writing. It does have to be in writing. It has to be written as a deed. But they don't say that. What they say is, well, we've written you a letter. It's called a notice of assignments. We've told you, literally, right? I'm going to send Roy a letter. I'm going to say, look, Roy, you owe me 50 quid now, right? I've took it, like the debt from Bob. And that's it. And that's literally what a notice of assignment is. It's like a debt collector writing to you and saying, Barclays Bank now say you owe it to me instead. Says who? Where's the law? It's like you just wrote that out yourself. You can see it's on your letterhead. It just says, right, dirty little debt collector says you owe me now money. But like in reality, it should be a deed, a legally executed deed of assignment. And it needs to be signed by the assignee, right? Whoever, Barclays Bank manager, passing, and it needs to be witnessed independently before it's passed over to a debt collector. But then they come up with all this nonsense, or like, well, it's a simple debt sale. It's like, we had one court case. We've had to go up into Chancery, and they went, well, we haven't got a deed of assignment. And the judge went, oh, well then. No, hang on. They've just admitted they haven't got a debt, right? So, sorry, they don't own the debt. So why are we in court fighting and arguing with them? They've just admitted it. And it went, all we have is a spreadsheet of data. I've been saying it for years. Look, they don't buy debt, they buy data off the I've seen the websites myself where I had an insider share it, went in big blocks of data that they just buy on a spreadsheet. And then they're admitting it in court, and the judge went, oh, well, if there's no data on it, then they can't be breaching it. Thinking, what the fuck? Are you joking? So, now we've had to get into some very complicated, equitable, like, cases where we've had to appeal, which, like, we'll be going in very soon, like, into the actual courts, into the what's called now the business and property courts, which is the newer version of Chancery. And they've spread around the country, by the way. You don't have to just go to London. You can get them all around England and Wales. It isn't just down in London. There's various different, and luckily for me, there's one in Newcastle upon Tyne, so we can just go there. But this is where you have to take these cases, because everything that they're doing is unconscionable. There is no conscience in it. They're actually acting with very unclean hands, right, by trying to rely on literally the document that proves there has been an assignment of a debt or a sale of a debt. They're enforcing that document, but they won't show you it. Well, we know because it doesn't exist, because they've actually went and got it on just a big block of data. So that's what you can actually use the FCA, tying it in with the Law of Property Act, tying it in with the equitable principles, and that's how you can actually create a really solid case against the debt collectors. You can't do it with just one of them. You've got to do a mixture, a quantum soup of the actual acts and statutes to be able, and the equitable maxims to have a good solid case against them,
And because, like, even if we go back to when, we bought loads of properties and everything, and what we kind of know now, if we knew then, they wouldn't have touched it. They wouldn't have been able to go at it. And I know that there's millions of people around the world that have been kind of, what you just said, like, everything is done wrong, whether it's passing it on to the bail, every single thing is done wrong. Sometimes in the courts, it's like, oh, this is limited to 3 years. If it's past 3 years, you can't do it. I've heard of other things with 10 years. Can they really do that? Can they really apply a kind of limit on it? Or is there a case that, because I know we have to choose our battles and everything. And I mean, you were wiped out. I was wiped out. And I mean, there's so many that were. But I know every single thing they done in Poland and in Ireland was totally illegal. And the fact now that I understand it all, but not just for me, just for everyone, can we actually, get them eventually for that?
Well, if we look at, let's look at, say, Ireland and England and Wales and Scotland, all right, which we know has an equitable, or at least partly in Scotland, because that really is a Roman civil law jurisdiction. But because, like, England are trying to rule it, then equity's been introduced to it. In Poland, I'm not sure. That would probably be civil law, would it?
Civil law, yeah.
Right. So there's the slight difference, but like in the other like Ireland, then for definite, you've got equitable principles. So under the equitable maxims, nothing runs out. So they can't say if you haven't done it in 3 years, you can't do it. Under equity, 100 years time. I don't think we're going to be here to do that, but it's definitely possible. So yeah, that's how to actually do it under equity. Now, talking about the mortgage side, though, like I say, yeah, I mean, we've both been a victim of that fraudulent fiasco, but we're busy now on a case using equity mixed with contract law and GDPR, where we're fighting a mortgage case where they've actually admitted already they don't have a deed of assignment. So let's think of Ireland, right? So this is if we get one case and it's already going into chancery now, or business and property court. If you get one case won and you get that case law, it is going to cause chaos. Like imagine Ireland there. I'm just saying the amount of mortgages that are being taken over, by I forgot the name now. There's one company that's actually taken over like all of these mortgages, like it's like a pirate company.
I know the one you're talking about. I forget the name, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the guy, the owner? He had a massive mansion on a coast and he bulldozed it and built another one. It begins with P, I think, something like that. I know. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like a vulture company, isn't it? Like a vulture mortgage company. And but they've took all, and I guarantee you that they haven't got a single deed of assignment on any of them, because they just do it backhandedly. You know that they do. And if you were able to actually get this one case law, he's finished. And now they've admitted, well, we've got no deed of assignment, but then they say we don't need one. Says who? It's just crazy. But what they try to do is they try to obfuscate. I mean, they've offered him money now, right? Like, I mean, not a lot of money. It's like literally, if you go away, they've never ever for the last year, I think it's a year going on a year, they've never asked for his mortgage payment. Why? But then they've like offered him, well, we'll write off like the missing parts, and we'll give you, I think it's something stupid like 150 quid or something like that. And then don't do any of this court case, not or any of that. So, but they actually apparently have got the charge on this property. So why would they be so relaxed about it? I think they're panicking really and thinking, oh God, if this gets into the correct court, then we've got a problem. And it's that is the domino. And once we actually get one domino going, it's going to be catastrophic for these hideous corporations that have been running this fraudulent setup for forever, like however many years mortgages have been done, like in the way that they've offered them out to people since probably the 30s or something. Whereas before that, it was like probably more wealthy people that had like the houses, and everyone else was renting the slums. It may sound silly, but it was, even in the town along here where my gym is, there was streets and streets and streets of these hideous one room up, one room down slums, and that's where all the families were actually living, coming out of the dockyards where in the mines where they all worked. That was what it was, a massive industrial town. And everyone just rented these horrible slums off slum landlords that are probably all the wealthy that own the beautiful houses further down where all the ship captains and the shipbuilders used to live.
I'm not sure. I think we might have mentioned Tommy Robinson before, but I saw he got released recently, and he was on the Patrick Best David podcast, kind of going into detail. Just curious your thoughts on him, or what's going on with what he went through. Because I just tell you, I get mixed reactions. Some people say he's controlled, others are saying like he's been fighting this for a while. So
yeah, I mean, I certainly have no massive interest in him at all. I just look, to me, it just looks like a game. Like if he pretends that this, then I don't know. I mean, are they not really serving like what they're trying to do, which is like divide and conquer, right? If you're a different color to him, the different religion to him, and that's what they're pushing, isn't it? I mean, that's why they're bringing in like all of the illegal. I mean, they could stop it easily if they wanted to. Of course, they're not going to do it because they've organized it, you know. And it's I don't know. I just think he's if he's not like um organized, you know, resistance, you know, or at least splitting and working for them, then he's just so passionate about what he thinks, then he's an easy pawn to use. I think he's a tool that gets used for sure by the correct people that want that narrative to keep going, split up everybody. England needs to be for the English and, you know, the British and whatever the guy's saying, British, you know, who wants to be fucking British, right? It should be like English or Welsh or Scottish, you know what I mean? And Scotland should not even have anything to do with bloody England anyway. But, you know, that to me is probably what is going on more than anything. And like I say, he might be organized, like, but if not, he's the perfect pawn to be able to play in that system, in it, to like get the government the narrative that they want, you know, and then fighting. What happens when they all start like kicking off and going into true civil war? You know, I mean, it's getting pretty rough in Ireland. But if you look about it, it's only a bunch of kids, right? But if they started doing it properly, like they used to, you know, back in the day, and had the proper squads and the proper, you know, armed, like, you know, groups and everything like that, then you go back to those days. Um, then you would have a civil war. Then you would be in big trouble, you know. And I think that if you get it to there where they seem to be wanting to push it and get it into a civil war, and then they just clamp down on everything with, like, you know, martial law, and everything's like even worse than it is now, with like you know, surveillance and everything, which is exactly, if you look at it, what they want to do anyway, isn't it? So they want everyone to kick off so they can then say, oh well, civil law, we'll look after you, we'll protect you, don't worry. By what? By locking you in your house for 24 hours a day, you know. Don't go outside, you'll die.
So, like, because I mean, that's happening all over Europe and especially Ireland. I mean, we see, I think they've destroyed the UK, you know, what you can see in different parts of the UK. It's like, it's no longer safe and everything. And so now Ireland, same thing, there's loads coming in. And they are doing protests, but I've never seen a protest work, to be honest with you. It's not really doing it. Using kind of natural law, common law, are you going for the councillors, or do you go for each individual politician? Because, like, say in Ireland, I know, is it 450 of the Muppets that just orchestrate this? They all own property that are renting, and they're based on per bed, so they're making millions, and then they're involved in doing the mosques and everything. Like, it's so fraudulent. But yeah, I mean, everyone is just complaining. But like it's like in the UK, just like they're raping children and everything. It's gone crazy. But like, trying to step back, is it that you have to go for the individual and go to court? Can we actually take each politician when they're voting for eviction bills for the Irish, kicking the Irish out in the street and opening the doors for somebody else and saying, hey, we've plenty of accommodation, and there's like a woman with 3 kids sleeping in a car? And you know, when I was going through the property thing, I was just looking at all the Irish just out in the street, and it was like so sad to see. Like, you know, hardworking people, like the economy tanked because of they controlled it. They stopped lending money, so the whole thing fell apart and threw them out in the streets. Now they've plenty. But what's your thoughts on how? Because I know it's $1 million question, but I don't think. And what's your thoughts on actually even the marches? Because yeah, it looks great, but it's usually people just cheering, going, hey, and you go home feeling good. But it's not. It's they laugh at you when we're doing that.
Of course. I mean, like, you know, I mean, I have sort of like samples, let's say, I've sampled like demonstrations for sure, right the way back into the 70s, you know. I mean, I was doing like peace marches, you know, like, as a kid coming out of the Catholic Church, that's what they were doing. So, like, you know, it wasn't a choice thing, right? Yeah, okay, marching down London, for like peace marches and stuff like that in Ireland was what it was, you know. Um, you know, our priest was Irish, obviously, so, like, you know what I mean, and that's how it all came about. But it's never going to achieve anything, is it? You know, that's that, you know, that they don't care. I mean, if you imagine all the marchers are going down to London and they were protesting, even like, you know, on lockdown and everything like that, and they're screaming and shouting and waving placards at empty buildings. Who gives a shit? All the people who they're actually protesting against have gone home. They're not there. They don't care. You know, and if you look at the mainstream media, which we all know is the biggest like scandalous joke of it all, you know, there was no sign or showing of how many people were there. It was just that a couple of people went to demonstrate. That was it, you know, and they locked London with the amount of people that they went. But it doesn't achieve anything, you know, and it's what is the solution? Do you know what I mean? To me, it brings it up to the spiritual side, I think, where it's like, okay, well, you know, what existence do you want to live in? Do you want to live in that like vibration that's so low and you're going to be running, screaming and shouting and waving a placard? All right. Or do you want to sort of like move away from that and say, well, look, you know, I live here. Whereas like, you know, I'm looking at like a bright future. I'm looking at like, you know, this higher vibration. And, you know, there is a lot of, knowledge out there and talking about like the planet itself and the human residence, and it is rising for what, and there is something happening, and there is a lot of glitches that are happening in different, I don't know how to explain it or what it is, but you know, there's something definitely going on that there could definitely be a split in humanity. What that means, I do not know, but you know, let's go back even to, for me, right? Just for me, going back to like when I left the Royal Navy and I was coming out and it was like massive pandemonium. Miners' strike was on. There was like, you know, and I made a hard sort of like mental decision. I'm not getting involved in any of this. I have to like not be. I don't care what anyone says about politics. I don't care what anyone says about, and I stayed away from it all, which is difficult because like all my friends were miners and they're all on strike, and you know I was coming home, you know, out of the Royal Navy, and they were all got no money. They had soup kitchens, you know. This was in 1984. There was like families queuing up at soup kitchens, you know, because they had no money and they were losing their houses because they weren't paying their mortgages because they had no income, you know. So it was difficult, but I just thought I've got to move away from it all and just stop being anywhere near where I'm getting into any kind of like, you know, no TV, no newspapers, no radio, nothing, which is basically what I still do now. Um, and I think that helps rather than get involved in all of the actual. Yeah, okay, I know it's real, and obviously, you know, I like lost everything at the same time, or maybe not at the same time, but like going through that crisis in like, you know, 2007, 8, and 9, and the amount of people that was like really why I got so vividly involved in the debt side, because I was watching these families get dragged out of their homes by policemen. I'm thinking, hang on, like, I mean, what the fuck are you doing there? Like, I mean, what crime is this woman committed to be dragged out of her home because she can't afford to pay the mortgage that's now gone through the roof? You know, hint, hint, it's happening right now today again. You know, people can't afford the mortgages because they're artificially being thrown so expensive. And watching them getting dragged out and thrown on the street. Literally, I mean, literally, some of the videos I've seen was like, what are you doing? You know? And like, you know, and I went through that, you know, I lost literally everything, including my own home. So I know exactly what it was like. But it's how do you sort of like change that? I just think everything's in a huge big cycle and a big loop, and it's never ever going to change. But you can either be involved or you can move to a different vibration and get yourself so you don't get too down and depressed about it, because it's just going to lower the vibration even more, isn't it? And it's definitely not going to help. You know, certainly have nowhere like, oh yeah, I've got a solution. Here we go, boom. You know, out of my pocket. You know, it's apart from try and like, you know, live life as privately as possible. You know, that's what we do. We try to teach people how to live privately, how to actually avoid, you know, confrontation, and also like take away controversy. So you don't cause controversy, right? But then remove controversy, legal or lawful, out of your life, and then you can live as a man or woman in the private. That's what we try and actually do and create, you know.
I saw something recently with the BBC with the license that whatever they're after winging now, it's like you can't get away out of it. When they're, because I even seen cases like that, in Ireland as well. There's the TV license. We don't have it here, but I know in the UK it's the TV license in Ireland, and there's people get arrested and put in jail for not being able to pay it. Is there ways of getting out? Because I mean, like, if you just look at Trustpilot, it's like for BBC, it's like people know that they're lying scumbags and they're just regurgitating crap and protecting pedophiles, and it's a sick organization. So why would you be paying to support that? But what's the best way that people can navigate that one?
Well, I've never paid for a TV license for years. I can't remember the last time I ever did. But I also haven't got a TV aerial or a connection with a TV. I haven't got a Sky dish or a satellite dish, or I just literally won't entertain it. I won't use it. So, I'm not going to pay for it for sure. But I know they're trying to bring in different things and say, oh, well, if you, have a bath on a Tuesday, you've got to pay a TV license. And, and it is that stupid. Some of it, it's like, well, if you do anything at all, you need to pay a TV license for BBC. I don't know. It's just crazy. But I never have. And what I have in the group as well, we have like a notice that we send. And I actually sent it to them and says, look, I don't watch television, but I think what you do is disgusting. The lies you tell, the propaganda you tell, and you're just a bunch of paedophiles protecting paedophiles. So I'm not going to have anything to do with you. And that's the notice that I actually sent to the BBC. And I got a notice back saying, thank you for telling us you don't watch TV. And that was it. Although, hang on, what about the paedophile thing? Where's that? Why are you...
If they didn't rebut it, it means guilty.
It's true. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and that's, I mean, I don't know if they're right back again. Have you changed your mind? You want to join up again? Or, well, I don't know, but it's been a long time. And yeah, I would just send the same letter back to them again, though, I'm not watching TV, and I'm certainly not supporting paedophiles and lies and propaganda and genocidal maniacs like you. So go do one.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure that we touch about the speed limits previously, but I'm seeing it here. Everything is reducing from 50 kilometers to 40 kilometers. Everything. Like, so many roads. Like, you can cycle that. That's 40 kilometers is extremely slow. And yeah, of course, when you need a cop, if you're being robbed or if your car's broken into anything, yeah, they're nowhere to be found. But you can find hundreds of them, with their speed guns.
Yeah, I mean, Joe, it's like, I don't think it's ever been as like that bad in definitely not up here. And we live in a tiny village anyway. And when they come into the village and you've got like a little school there, and I think, everything should be slow.
I 100% when it's going to a preschool or a school, go down to 40. I'm 100%. But
Yeah.
Here, there's roads that 50 that you could even be doing 70 kilometers, and you're gone to 40, and you're like, there's nothing here, and they're just enforcing that.
Like in Wales now, a lot.
I've heard of Wales as well. A lot of it happened.
Case, and he's put it down, although it's miles per hour and not kilometers. So I think it's gone down from 30 to 20. And in like main roads where it was like, well, I'm nearly walking that. So that is ridiculous. But I mean, mainly I think it's not so bad. But you've got to sort of like learn a lot about like the rules. Let's call them the rules rather than the laws for like the roads and the Road Traffic Act, because it can be extremely handy as well when you need it at certain times. But let's just say for speeding, right? And this happened to me like years ago. There's a little village, a little bit like up from where I am, and this bus pulled up right at the bus stop, and I thought, well, I need to get, but I could see traffic coming, so you're going to put your foot down just to get past the bus as it's pulling in. So, and I had forgot. I mean, I pass it every bloody week, and I had forgot there's a camera. As soon as you go past the bus, there's the camera. Flashed me. I'm like, oh, right, okay. I was only doing about 34, like in a 30, just to get past the bus so I could get there before the traffic. I mean, it's like, yeah, all right. In their rules, then that was wrong. But it wasn't like I was doing like, 70 mile an hour in this zone and I wasn't caring about anything. It was just to actually kind of, in a way, be safer, get past the bus, not cause an obstruction, and just do a little bit faster so I'm not in front of the other traffic. But anyway, and I did, they went, oh, do you want to like pay the fine and get points, or you can do this traffic course. I thought, I'm going to do the traffic course. So I did the traffic course, and some of the stuff I learned, I was like, wow, I didn't know that. And I made a lot of notes on it as well. A lot of people like, you'd see them like, oh, this is pathetic. And I was like thinking, a lot of this stuff I did not know, and I was making notes on it, and I've used it ever since as well. And I've even asked other people, like, questions. And I said, well, why are you complaining about the speed limit? Do you know what this means over here? Even pointing. So how do you know where there's a 30 limit compared to a 40? Like 8 miles per hour, that is. And they don't know at all. But if you do, like in that case, right, just say that I didn't do the course, what I could have done is ignored it. Right now, I'm again, if you're doing 70 or whatever it is in a 30 zone, then I think you should actually get like heavily fined in it. And if you're doing any more than that, and especially if there's a school, I think you should go and spend a couple of months in prison, because you're just completely stupid and irresponsible. But just say it was like something similar where you're trying to get past the bus, and you know what I mean, and there was oncoming traffic, and it was just a little couple of miles over the limit, you get a flash. You can send a statutory declaration, right? So say you get your what's it called, the NIP, notice of intended prosecution, for your speeding, and you haven't actually, and you can do similar for, I think in England anyway, it's like an S172, which is you haven't told them who the driver was, and then they're going to prosecute you. If you send in the statutory declaration, and a statutory declaration, you are literally swearing, right? I swear, right, that I didn't get any of that paperwork. I don't know anything about it, right? Then what they have to do is they have to take it out of the court system or out of the enforcement system. If it was, say, a ULEZ fine, you can do the same. I'm going to get into trouble for this, right? And it reverts it back to the very beginning, like they've just issued it. Okay. Now, if it is the speeding, you're talking about, it's two different groups come together there. It's like the Department of Public Prosecutions as well as the police. It's a nightmare for them, right? Like an administration nightmare. So they just cross it off 99% of the time. If it's like, if you have been doing 70 or 90, they're not going to drop it. They're going to come after you, and you deserve it. But if it's like, it's just like, 30, 34 and a 30, right? And to redo the whole thing is extremely heavy on admin. And a lot of the time, most of the time, it's going to get left and forgotten about. So just, bear that in mind. But you can do similar with these ULEZ things, Now, they are a little bit more hands-on, let's call it that. So if you get like a ULEZ thing and you get this coming through, I mean, I'm not talking about signage. We'll talk about that in a little bit later, but you don't do anything with the, and the next thing it comes in, you get like the enforcement letter, right? You can then send in a statutory declaration. Can't remember the number of it now. It's something like a TE7 in England. When you don't, mainly it's in London. Where they've got like Traffic London, whatever it's called, TFL or whatever. And they've got to revert back to the beginning. Again, it's an administration nightmare. The ULEZ fines were a little bit more, like, let's say, hands-on. They'll think, oh, he's not getting away with it. And, I would say it's kind of like about 50-50. It'll either get thrown out or, I mean, if you've got 100 of them and they see there's 100 of them, they're going to do it. But if you've got 2 or 3, you haven't, they're just going to drop it. So just bear that in mind, like the statutory declaration and what you're doing, and you have to make sure that you're being honest with it, is you have to like make a declaration and swear that you never knew anything about it. You'd never seen the paperwork to say that you were going to get this enforcement action against you. So as long as you're truthful and honest, you'll be totally fine with that one.
And, like you run about, like if someone's doing excessive speeding, because I've seen some people and, they're recording the police officer, or even in Ireland or whatever, and they're kind of trying to use the common law, the sovereignty or whatever to get out of it. But the reality is we do need, I mean, not stupid speed limits where it's like, but there is people that they'll do, say 150 in a 100 km, and that's dangerous. And then they're using what they think will get them out of it, and they're just kind of trying to say, show me your jurisdiction and all that. And even if there's ways around that, I mean, the reality is, like, you can't have that, because then it becomes the Wild West. People just go away and do their own thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you don't want to live in chaos, do you? I mean, the whole thing, right? And this is the difference. Everyone says, oh, well, the word anarchy means like that everything is chaos and everyone does what they want. No, anarchy actually means self-governance. So you learn how to self-govern. But if you're going to be self-governing yourself, then you have to make sure that you actually look towards the welfare of other man and woman, right? So you're not going to go and start like speeding, like doing 60, 70 miles an hour on a 30 limit, or even here, like this little village, got a couple of little schools here, you know what I mean? And it is a 20. And, you should be doing that, because there's people there's a lot of elderly in here. There's like little kids everywhere, and school times are all going along there. It's like packed with kids everywhere. And I won't go out when it's school times. You can't get through the place. I just wait until everything's gone. But, so it's dangerous. So, yeah, I mean, you've got to actually if you want to be sovereign, then you have to act like a sovereign. And if you're going to be sovereign, then that means that you're taking care of everyone, not just yourself on a selfish level. You have to look after man and woman, and that's what it's all about. And that's where that all falls down. To me as well, when I don't tell anyone what to do. You can all, have to make up your own mind and do whatever you want. So, like, yeah, but when it comes down to like your car, right, and everyone says, oh no, I'm not driving, I'm traveling, and I get it, and it tells you, but then they always use one line of one act without using the rest of it to like where it actually shuts them down, right? And it's, I'm traveling and I'm allowed to do this and I'm allowed to do that, the God says this and everything. And so I don't need a license, I don't need insurance, I don't need tax and everything. And obviously tax is disgusting no matter what anyway. But on the insurance side of things, to me, right, if I'm thinking I'm going to be driving along, I hope, right, touch wood or anything, I never ever hurt anyone. But what if I did? Right, just accidentally, even if it was like, that I had just turned, I hadn't noticed somebody like and hit them and they were injured and they couldn't work. Then as a sovereign, it's my responsibility to ensure that they replace their income then so that they can feed family in it. And you know what I mean? Right. But I know I can't afford to do that. Right. So therefore, to me, having insurance to make sure if anything like that happened, then the insurance would actually pay that out. And then if there was an injured party and they couldn't work, then they're going to get, like, fingers crossed, like, replacement of their income or help in one way or the other. I know plenty of people who've been in traffic accidents have had hundreds of thousands in compensation. So, there's something up there to help if there was something like that. And I wouldn't want to be the irresponsible one saying, no, I'm not paying you anything. I wasn't driving, I was traveling, and I'm a man and I'm on the public road. And in reality, you're in a sea lane, which is why they call all those shipping lanes, right? Which is why you pay for shipping even when it's coming in a lorry, because they're on shipping lanes, right? So it kind of blows it all out of the water anyway. You either go in the public and act, and you can be private as a man, but then sometimes you have to go in and be public. So to me, again, that's just like working at, do you like, I'm not telling you what to do if you don't want to have insurance or anything. But also as well, I went down to Birmingham years ago now. Can't remember. It was like I did a presentation about, being privacy of man and everything like that, in Birmingham, middle of Birmingham. Mysteriously, my car got smashed to pieces. It says, oh, it looks like someone's trying to burgle it, steal it, like steal the car. I was thinking, well, it's not a new car. Plus what they've done to it, I mean, they've ruined it. Like, they'd never be able to sell it. They smashed all the windows. Like, that's not how you steal a car, right? They had took the lock out, right? They had done that, but it would look like nearly get a football through the bloody thing. It was ridiculous what they had done. I had to drive back to Newcastle like that, no windows, it was bloody freezing. But anyway, and this is the mysterious thing. I'm not going to mention names, right? But, it was weird what happened. And when we got back to the hotel, I got given a lift by somebody to the hotel where the car was, because I couldn't take the car anywhere. And the police were there. You know, I don't know. It was just all a bit weird. And then they went and gave me a crime number. And so I got the insurance claim. But I mean, it paid for everything, you know, repaired everything perfectly. I've still got the same car now. You know, it was absolutely fine. And the insurance paid for it all. Took nearly 4 months. They actually had the car to fix it. Right. They had twisted one of the doors and smashed all the windows. So they had to replace the entire door because it wouldn't go back on. You know, 2 doors actually, 2 doors that had to replace, all the windows that had to replace, but they couldn't get the spare parts because of the Ukrainian war, right? So that's why they had a hold of it for like, that's what they told me. I'm like, what? It was like 4 months or something. But in that time, I had my a vehicle, like, you know, they supplied me with a vehicle and it covered all the costs. So, you know, I think it was over £5,000 in the end once it actually finished it all. So I would have had to pay all that or get rid of the car. It was smashed to bits. You know, so I don't know. Just to me, it's like you've got to be. I would say you've got to. If you're sovereign, then you have to be looking after all man and woman, not just yourself in a selfish way.
Yeah. And have you heard, because I've heard of people where they register the car and then they get like a bond, the bond that's like kind of acts like an insurance thing. Have you heard about that?
I've certainly heard about it, but I've never seen anything that anybody could prove any success on there, you know? So yeah, then there's people that do it, and I know that they've said, oh, well, I've got this, and it's a bond. Well, where's the bond from? Oh, it's from my birth certificate, and, you know, and I've heard of all of that, but then prove it then. So let me see when the insurance is going to come through if you smash your car up then.
Yeah.
We'll see, you know, or get yourself arrested because you've driven into someone else's car, you know, and they've got, you know, no insurance and no license. I know plenty of people that have had their cars crushed and said, no, but I'm traveling, you know, what's the point? I mean, you know, it's like, I truly believe that we are a sovereign being, a man and woman under the creator, but, you know, we are in a realm that we've been placed into by choice or not, I do not know, where, you know, it's controlled by an evil force basically, and they've put these legal rules in rather than the law. And if you don't sort of like at least go in and play by the rule book, then you can end up getting a very uncomfortable life. And yeah, you know, but you can play, you can go from private to public and be private and public, and you do not need to go and fight every single battle and every single rule that they created just to prove the fact that you're a man. It's you know, you're never going to have time to do anything else, are you?
And, you know, you mentioned there like that, you know, however we got here, whether by choice. I know that when I leave, I'll slap myself into the head for actually coming here. Like, you know, it's just,
Oh yeah,
the private parking. I know we want to touch on that, and it's
more, yeah, definitely. And you know, like this is the thing about the parking and about the cars. I don't think that anybody should have a car in their own name, right? You shouldn't have it in your own name. Don't put it in, like, you know, your friend's name or anything. I'm not saying that now. Like, take into account, right? I think most countries are like this, but definitely in England, Wales, Scotland, whatever. And you don't, on the V5, it's called, right? You're down there as a keeper of the car. You don't own it, right? That's what they call you, the keeper of the car. And it's registered with DVLA. So, I mean, you know, whatever it is, you know, however you are, but you're not the owner, you're down as the keeper. Now, on this private parking, I call them these private parasites, you know, and like years ago, you used to be able to go, I'm going to the gym, and you would park up at the gym. You wouldn't have to worry about it. There's a big car park. You go in. Same thing as you got, I need to go shopping. You're going to go into a supermarket, car park. You don't have to worry about anything. You just park up and away you go. Even train stations or anything like that, you're just going to park up and then you're going to go and do your thing, come back. Now you've got all of the out of this new industry, and you know, it's all right. It may be like a few years now, but it's still just a new industry that's formed are these private parking companies, Europark and Park and I and people like that, you know, and they are just like a bunch of disgusting parasites. And the contracts that they do, this is the thing, people, and I keep like telling people all the time, and they're contacting me saying, "Oh, I've got a fine." No, you haven't. They can't fine you. It's not a fine. I'm not saying I haven't given you a charge, right? But get into the right mind, because they're honestly, it's like psychological. They've been gone through a lifetime of indoctrination, right? Completely systemic intimidation from birth right the way through in school, right? And that's why they say things that, "Oh, I've got to fine, I must pay it, I'm going to run, I'm going to get like go into trouble, I'm going to get bailiffs, I'm going to go to prison." That's the mindset that they've got. But it's not a fine. What it is a charge for a breach of contract. Okay, so you got like, it's happened quite a few times to a lot of people that I know, and on mine, right, we got one a few years ago, and it came through, right, to the address, but what I had written on is trustee, right? That's all I had written on, trustee. And so we just wrote back and said, "Well, who is it that you're writing to? Who is trustee? And also, what jurisdiction are you with? Because trustee means there's a trust, therefore there comes under an equitable jurisdiction, and you can only be under a statutory jurisdiction." Never ever heard back from them ever again. It's got to be about like 3 odd years ago. So I tried it again, and this time I actually just parked same company, but a different car park. Seen it, like, you know, I took videos and photographs of all the signs, because the signs were wrong. They were all this high, right? So if you stepped away from the cars, you couldn't see any signs. If you walked a little bit further away, they were behind the cars. Is that an accident? I don't think so, right? But anyway, so I videoed it, photographed it, you know, like, and I thought, "Hey, this is going to be some interesting battle, this one." Never ever wrote to me ever again, right? So, I mean, I don't know why, by the way, but it could be flagged now. That car, it comes up with this, and they don't bother writing to that one. It's just, you'll not get anything. It's a waste of time. You know, I do know that there are certain cars that get flagged and they don't do it. You're never going to get anywhere. Maybe it's that because it goes to a trustee. They write the trustee. Well, who's that then? Who are you going to take to court? There is no legal personality. You have to have a legal personality to go into the civil jurisdiction or criminal jurisdiction. They can't say trustee. Well, who is that? What does that mean? Right? So, and that's all it says on my V5. In fact, when I moved house, right? I'm sorry, I didn't move house. I moved address. So I was trying to like put it into where my gym was. I wanted to put the car in the gym address, and they never sent the V5 to me. Right? That's got. I mean, that was years ago. I don't know about, well, like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and I've never had a V5 ever since. And everyone's going, "Oh, I can't get a V5, you can't sell it." I don't care. I'm not going to sell it. It's like, what difference does it make? You know, but I bet you I could, though, if I wanted to sell it. But so I've got no V5, but it still states on DVLA's website, trustee. So if anything ever comes through, it just says trustee. So, but I'm still insured as a driver, a named driver, right? So that's not a problem. And you know, it's taxed. It's like, you know, so it's actually, because of what it is, it's only about like £1 a day for me. In fact, it's not. It's about like 70 pence. So I'm not going to argue about it, you know. So but anything like that is completely and utterly protected. So yes, it is in a private trust, but also there is no legal personality that they can actually do any enforcement action to. You can't take trustee, that word, that's all it is, a word, right? If it said Mr. Wilson trustee, then it would be a legal personality, but it's not, right? It's that. So just, that's a good hint for everybody there. But on there, this private, you know, they've got, remember, sorry, going back to when, if you've seen a cowboy sitting on a horse with his hat on and he's smoking a cigarette, what would be the brand of cigarette that you'd be thinking of?
Marlboro.
Power of advertising, Marlboro, right? In it. And the cigarette or tobacco industry had lobbyists that would pay millions upon millions of pounds to MPs, what do you call it, senators in America and all that, to make sure that smoking was never made illegal. Then they had so many like records of the cancers, the deaths, the secondhand smoking, of how bad it was. It was so addictive. Now you can still smoke, can't you? But they're not allowed to advertise, are they? Or at least they can't have it. You know, I mean, even in the supermarkets and that, you go in, they're shut. The doors are shut. And then you open them up to like take them out.
But the way that it's done is actually really sneaky, because it's like when you're at the aisles, they had all the sweets, because the kid is like, grabbing the mom's hand and wants the sweets. Same thing. You go up there and you just see it. You cannot ignore it. It's just there in front of you. Like in Poland, they have the big box and they open it, but you can see it. So it's like, even if you were trying to give them up, it's like a trigger to make you get it again.
Yeah. So, but, so obviously, but for years and years and years, I can remember back in the day, right? They used to like going on a plane, going on a holiday, and they'd be smoking on holiday, and obviously as a kid, it's not very nice, is it? Everyone's smoking and it's like killing you. It's horrible. But, they paid a lot of money. Now, these private parking companies have got the same groups of lobbyists. Now, definitely for like the UK, England, Wales and Scotland, they have like what's called the Protection of Freedoms Act 2012. That's what it's called, Protection of Freedoms Act. Then why is it called that? That is how they actually do this private car parking. Now, they actually lobbied the MPs, and when it says lobbying, what they do is they actually bribe them, right? They pay them like, fortunes, and it's like, oh yes, I have a donation. Yeah, we know why, because they're going to make sure that you vote exactly how they want to vote when they're putting it through the Houses of Parliament, so that they now allow the private parking companies don't have to say who was driving, right? And the police, right, if they are speeding, we're talking about that before, they have to say, tell me who the driver was. On the private parking, they don't have to. They go straight for the keeper. And how do they do that? They go straight to the DVLA. Well, I just wrote this down. Let me check on here. I've got the actual figure here. How much the DVLA, right, make per year selling your data, right, to the private car parking companies. £20 million a year. DVLA make by selling your data, and it's only £2.50 per time, by the way. So you can imagine how many requests to get, And what do they do there? The actual private parking, they actually put out 11.5 million charges to all these people in 2022. 11.2 million, right? Charges going out to all these people. And it's the keepers, not who was driving. So, a lot of the times it will be the keeper who's actually driving, but that is a scam. And they've got loads of like lobbyists that make sure that this stays that way. Now, the whole thing is a scam from beginning to end. And I can prove some. I've been doing this for a while now, so I get myself quite carried away with it. But what they're saying is, these private parking companies, you go into their car park as soon, and it's on the terms and conditions, as soon as you park, you've contracted, right? So they've said you've had the opportunity to read the signs, the small print, right? And you've accepted it and you've parked up, that means you're under contract. So even if you then try to get out and say, well, I've just seen that sign, I've just realized now I need to get out, you're still under contract. Now, I get like loads of like BS coming through, the old keyboard warriors, and say, oh, no, the BPA, right, British Parking Association, they say you've got a 10-minute period to get in and out. That is the biggest abuse done by the car parking companies, especially at hospitals. They have got a policy written down at 61 seconds, they're going to give you a charge. 61 seconds. 1 minute, 1 second, boom, you're getting that charge. So hospitals are disgusting. They've got rid of nearly all the proper car parks. So they used to be huge. Our local hospital, not that I want to go, but You know, you go in, they've got rid of most of the car parking. It's tiny. When you go in and you have to be under this charge, and they charge you fortunes. And it's like you go like you got 10 minutes and then it goes up to 100 quid. Right. And if you don't pay within 14 days, it's 170, then it's going to a debt collector. And then it's like 400. Okay. So 18 young men every day commit suicide in England, right? 18 a day. The vast majority always saying on debt. Office of National Statistics, Samaritans, go and check it out. I'm not making it up, right? And nearly all of them say debt was the issue, right? And on coroner's reports, they've actually got it written saying, and it says on the coroner's reports, he's committed suicide. The parking charge was the final straw. The parking charge did it for me, right? And this is the reality of it. It's not like, oh, because I have people say, "Oh, just pay the fee. You shouldn't be parking there if you don't want to." Go fuck off, right? Right? You got 18 people a day that are committing suicide because of debt. So shut your fucking mouth. That's just disgusting. Now, what they do is, right, they're saying as soon as you parked, you're in contract. That's an impossibility. Under contract law and equity, it's an impossibility because on the Road Traffic Act and on the Highway Code, you are not allowed to take your attention off the actual vehicle that's moving. So if you're in a car park, not only have you got loads of cars going in and out, going reverse and going in, trying to straighten, they're pulling, they're going everywhere. People are getting out. There's pedestrians everywhere. What they're saying is you should take your eye off your own vehicle, not have due care and attention, and you should read the small print on the sign to accept the contract. It's an impossibility. And under equitable maxims, right, you are not allowed to commit an offence, an illegal offence, to actually get involved in a contract. So to read the sign on a moving vehicle, that's the only way you can accept the contract when you'd never be able to see it anyway, right? But, right, it's an impossibility. So you have got no contract, but you have to do it correctly when you argue with them, right? So you get, I mean, honestly, you get them coming in on these comments and saying, "Oh, but it's not on the road, it's in a private car park." It's a private car park with public access. So you can buy your own field and you can spin around doing donuts and do 100 miles an hour and you can run into a brick wall and kill yourself. No one's going to care. You haven't broken any road traffic act. Totally different if you have public access to it. If you've got a public car park, you are completely under the Road Traffic Act, and I've got the case law to prove it as well, under the Road Traffic Act and the Highway Code. So you have to follow their rules, right? And it states under there, due care and attention. If you take your eye off the road, you're not allowed to read texts, maps, right? Or anything that would take it away from your due care and attention, right? So I don't know if you ever heard of a guy called Harry Redknapp. He was a professional footballer. His son is still a professional footballer, and he met his wife because he reversed over her, right, in a car park. Because it's dangerous places, so you got to make sure that you do due care and attention in these places. So it's an impossibility. Now, also, when they're saying you got 10 minutes to actually make your mind up, you haven't. They will charge you at 61 seconds. Plus, also, it's got like it's Thornton versus Shoe Lane Parking Limited, right? And it says as soon as you've actually parked, then you're in a contract. Then you get out your car to go and read it. Then you find out, oh wow, actually, there's a load of different terms and conditions there. You can't enforce new terms and conditions on a contract that's already contracted. So under their terms and conditions, as soon as you park, you're contracted. Then you read the terms and conditions, find out that loads of different ones that you didn't agree to, that you wouldn't agree to if you had any sense, right? Then, again, it voids the contract. So if we took it on an equitable basis, then all of those actions that what they're actually saying forms a contract, is no way that can you say that that is an offer and acceptance of a contract with a meeting of the minds. It's an impossibility. Therefore, it's an unconscionable act under equity. Right? So therefore, because it's an unconscionable act, then they do not have clean hands. So they cannot enforce any kind of contract on you without clean hands. That's how you can fight it, by using equity. But nobody does, or very few do, unless they get into my group and I teach you exactly how to do it. Now, there's a case law that all these dirty parking parasites use is called Park and I versus Bevis. And it went to the Supreme Court. But what is the Supreme Court? It's not a court of equity. It's purely a court of statute. It's a statutory court. So they'll only take a narrow view of statute, not law. That's a difference, right? Whereas in equity, they will look at the law. And what is the law? It's fairness, transparency, and conscience. You have to use your conscience. What would be looking after man and woman? Whereas statute, you either did it or you didn't. It's black or it's white. So when they got this case, and it's not his fault because he's probably doing a great job, this Mr. Bevis, he was saying, hang on, 80 quid for like 10 minutes. No, I'm not doing that. So he went to court, got into the Supreme Court, which was brilliant of him. But all he was arguing about was the £80 penalty. That is not a parking charge. That is like a punitive charge to me. That's the only thing he was arguing about it. Was it really a parking charge or a penalty? And they said that they agreed for whatever. And you got to remember, these judges in the Supreme Court, right? They are not on the same level as me and you. They're not working class. To them, there was like 80 quid, oh, it's a pain in the arse, but I'm going to pay it, right? To a mother that's got like kids and they've got like 80 quid for their food bill that week, then that is not normal. So that is not an equitable charge. Well, they actually called it a commercial charge. No, it's fine. It's not a penalty. That's actually a normal charge for parking. And what it was it was such a busy car park. They wanted that the argument was you should get out on time to get more customers in so they'll spend money in the shopping centre. So that was it was a commercial argument, right? But if they'd have took it, and I'm just the more research I'm doing it and taking it into an equitable side, no way would they have been able to do that in a court of equity. They should have took it in a chancery, right? Or now, like the business and property courts, that division. So when you actually look at all of the abuse that they're doing, complete unconscionable conduct, they haven't got clean hands in any way, shape or form. You can do what they call an SAR, subject access request. So you get this like letter come through, right? If you haven't changed it to say trustee or private trust and it says in your name, then you send that SAR off and you ask for very specific details. You can't do it to a debt one. It's got to be these specific details. And it's got to be under contract law, as well as GDPR, DPA 2018 and equity. Quantum soup, making it into one system. Then when you put that to them, they just can't battle with it. It's the completely unconscionable conduct. First time I got told this was by the guy who was like teaching me equity at the time a few years ago. And he went, I've never ever paid a parking charge because I always quote or invoke equity. I was like, really? Explain that. And then from there, I went back and did my own research and built it up. And then you see it and think, wow, these people should never pay because it's a dirty business, right? It is a dirty business. And like, it doesn't get into my head how people can actually support this. Yes, I know debt collectors are making money out of it. That's what I'm not talking about them, right? But like anybody that would make a comment, like, on TikTok or YouTube and say, oh, you should just go and pay it. And forget about like the suicide rate and forget about like, oh, hang on, he got a guy there, he's working 12 hours, right? He's like finished his work, he's knackered, he needs to get the shopping in to go home for the food for his kids and everything like that. And you go and find a supermarket, right? Pull into the supermarket to get his food. And then there's like, oh, I've only got an hour and I've got to get out of here, right? Or, right, yeah, really? You're going to say, well, I'll go and find another supermarket. That's what they're saying. Well, you got the choice. No, you haven't. You haven't got a choice. Right? So you go to the next supermarket, say you left, that's the same. They're all the same. So there is no choice. So you go and park on what? Double yellow lines when you will actually get a criminal conviction ticket, right? It's just, so you haven't got no choice. So what you can do is hold them to account. Now, what we're doing is we're actually flipping the tables on them. We don't just say, I'm not paying the ticket because you're unconscionable. What we do is we actually say, you've breached our data. Why? Because there's no contract. And if there's no contract, then you've got no legitimate interest to be sharing my data with a debt collector. You've sent it to DCBL, a bunch of scumbags, right? So now they've written to me. So now I've got a claim against you in the equity court and also you, the debt collector, in equity court. So, I mean, we've had multiple members now winning thousands and thousands of pounds in these claims. So that's what you should actually be doing, is getting them into court so you can put them under pressure. It's the only way you can actually get any kind of fight back, because their money, the profits are so huge that it's ridiculous. So now we have to start making it uncomfortable for them, administration wise with the SERs, and then financially by putting them all under pressure by taking them to court and winning compensation against them.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. I mean, you mentioned the hospitals as well. I mean, I remember when I was younger, you never had to pay for the parking and it worked fine. And now, I mean, imagine having a child that's sick for a couple of months in hospital and you have to go there and pay. Like some people, they're staying out of work just to be near the kids to just keep them, keep their spirits up and everything. And then they have to pay this money. And the same was with the airports. I mean, we might have touched on that, but I see it even in much. I've seen it in Cork. So it's in most airports. Before you just drop off, or you're collecting something, just stop for 10 minutes. It worked perfect. It wasn't broken. But now it's like you have to pay straight away going in. And what I see in much, all the cars are hanging around down the end. And that's dangerous because they're blocking your vision on the main road because they don't want to come in. And it's like the stupidity of the city, the city probably runs the airport in most cases. And so not only the money that they're taking, but they're creating dangers because of this.
Well, think about this. We just recently, like my son, he runs all of the martial arts gyms now, but he spent like the winter in Thailand doing training within the Thai boxing gyms. So I took him along to the airport to drop them off. You're going along on the motorway, right? And it's like all of the the laybys, the emergency laybys are all full of taxis, right? Because they can't go to the airport anymore. So they're all full of taxis. Then we went down to turn around at the roundabout so we could get back up. They were going past what do you call it now? It's a garden centre. The garden centre car park's full of taxis. And all the blokes are sitting in the taxis, right? Because they can't go to the airport. So what it is, I mean, we did it. We went in. I mean, he was going away for months, so we had like tons of stuff. So I pulled up as close as I could to get the stuff out into the airport, right? You paid £5 just for stopping. Just for stopping. So, and you can't get into it. You've got to go through a barrier right the way back about 400 or 500 yards away. Then you go and pull up and then you can't get out again till you've paid it. So, I mean, at Newcastle Airport anyway. So, I mean, others, you might be able to leave and then they'll send you a bill for, you know what I mean? You haven't paid and there's your £100 fine or charge, I should say, because that's what everyone calls it, a fine. But yeah, it's just ridiculous, and like you said, dangerous because now there's no emergency laybys now. So if you did have, oh God, my engine's blowing up or whatever, I've got a flat tire, you can't go and pull off, it's not it's dual carriageway. Right, you can't pull off it because all the taxis are filled up, and the same thing, you know what I mean? It's like what you used to have when all the lorries were driving along, and there was like the sandwich wagons you would pull in and get sandwiches, so that they can't go there anymore. So I mean, you're ruining business for people that have been doing that for decades as well now. So like the lorry drivers can't get the sandwiches, and then also the people with the food wagons now, they can't park up because they're full of taxis, right? Because nobody can go and park at the airport. I mean, that's what for the lobbyists that went into Parliament to actually pass these parking companies laws under the Protection of Freedoms Act. What kind of freedom is that? Protection of freedom. What a name, It should be Parking Parasite Act is what it should be bloody called.
And just finally, I saw a guy. It was in Ireland, but I know how happens everywhere. I think it was Nate, and he was just walking along, and he said, because they took away the parking, so people that lived in the area, they were either on the yellow lines or they're on the path. Hundreds, like every car he passed had a parking, but there's nowhere for him to put the cars. When you get a clamp, it's even different again. But can you use the same thing for that? For when they're actually putting because the reality is, if there was adequate parking and they've removed it, that's not on you.
Yeah, if it's a private parking company, same thing applies, and there is a lot as well that have private parking companies that go up and down the streets and say we're in charge of this one street. So which is different to like, the council ones with the double yellow lines or anything like that. It's different. It's totally different legislation. This is purely for like the Park and I and Euro Park and people like that, I mean, it's not even as if, like, say you've got a multi-story car park and they've built it just to put your car in, right? So, I mean, we've got them in the middle of Newcastle. It's £3 for the entire day, 24 hours actually, right? Because they've went and built it's theirs, they own it, right? Fair enough there, right? But I mean, a supermarket or a gym or a shopping centre, you want to go buy something, you've now got to go and get, according to them, contract with a car parking company just to get to the shop. I mean, it's just disgusting. It's completely inequitable. But yeah, I mean, they have got rid of a lot of the norm. Like you can't park anywhere now in town centres or anything. But then they're just making it so you can't really have a car anyway, are they? They don't want anyone having cars. They want you to be your 15-minute cities and get locked into there and make it easier. That's what electric cars. Everything's going electric, so they can just get it switched off and. But yeah, so that's
15-minute cities. I got a strike on that one. I put that up on TikTok. I mean, we know it's 100% true, and they just give me a strike on it. And same with the gates. One gate's blocking out the sun. I mean, we know that's true. It's 100% true. It's like strikes. Yeah,
that's on mainstream media, isn't it?
Exactly. And it's like you make an appeal, and it just kind of go on that, and probably AI yeah. But listen. Thoroughly enjoyed it as always, Peter. You might let the listeners know where they'll find you.
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way, and what we do everything now, is just on Skool.com. So, if you go to Skool.com, there's loads of different groups on there, and just search for Checkmate the Matrix. And that's it. Find it on there. You can join straight from there, get a free trial going into there. And there is just so much information on there, and it's growing and growing and growing all the time. Find out about how to smash like these parking charges from all these parking parasites, or you can even read about like Tommy the Trustworthy Tiger as well, and learn the kiddies books, and enjoy that little bit of entertainment for you as well.
Yeah, perfect. And I have the link anyway for the thing, so it'll be both in the audio and the video. Thank you very much, Peter.
No worries. Excellent.
So that's all for the Awakening Podcast. You'll find all our episodes on awakeningpodcast.org. Scan their QR code. You'll find my 6 podcasts, which are on crypto, speaking, meditation, and even podcasting. And you'll find everything on roycollin.com. If you're looking for virtual assistants, we've got packages from $99. You go to va.world. Until next week, take care.